Welcome to another episode of the Books Central podcast with me, Abbie. Today, I'm thrilled to have Ronnie Green as our guest. He's the author of the new book A Rifleman of the 95th Rifles in the Peninsular War, a fascinating account of one of the most significant conflicts in history. For those unfamiliar with the Peninsular War, can you tell us a little about it and why it's so relevant today?
Certainly, Abbie. The Peninsular War was fought between 1808 and 1814, and it was a crucial moment in European history. It occurred during the Napoleonic Wars and saw Britain and its allies fighting against Napoleon's empire in the Iberian Peninsula. The war was brutal and hard-fought, with many battles and skirmishes. The 95th Rifles played a crucial role in several of these engagements, and they helped to turn the tide of the war in Britain's favour. As for why it's relevant today, well, I think it's important to understand the history of our world and how it has shaped the present day. Beyond that, the Peninsular War taught us many lessons about warfare, tactics and strategy, and the importance of understanding the terrain.
Can you start by telling us about your inspiration for writing and how your time in the army influenced you to write this book? A Rifleman of the 95th Rifles in the Peninsular War.
I served in the British Army's 3rd Battalion Royal Green Jackets, and during my service, I learned a lot about the regiment's history. I became particularly interested in the 95th Rifles, who were part of the regiment during the Peninsular War. Their use of sharpshooting and expert marksmanship was revolutionary and greatly impacted modern warfare. I wanted to explore their history and shed light on their contributions to the British Army and to world history. Their unique tactics and skills fascinated me, and I felt compelled to share their story.
That's fascinating. And I know your book covers some of the unique aspects of the war. Can you tell us a little bit more about those?
Yes, certainly. The book covers a lot of ground, but I would say the most unique aspect is the insight it provides into the daily life of a rifleman. I wanted to give readers a sense of what it was like to be on the front lines of the Peninsular War. We delve into the day-to-day struggles and challenges faced by riflemen, as well as their triumphs and victories.
Thank you for that, Ronnie. It's genuinely fascinating. How about we get right into your book? Could you read an extract for us that captures the essence of a battle?
Absolutely. I crouch low behind a rocky outcrop, my breath coming in quick, shallow gasps as my heart pounds against my chest. The sound of gunfire is deafening, each shot sending a jolt of fear racing through my body. Smoke hangs thick in the air, stinging my eyes and filling my nostrils with the acrid scent of burning powder. Sweat soaks through my uniform, clinging to my skin and making me feel suffocated. The ground shakes as artillery fire rains down around us, the screams of the wounded and dying ringing out like a macabre chorus. I force myself to focus on my mission, tightening my grip on my rifle and sliding a fresh cartridge into the chamber. We are the sharpshooters, the elite of the British Army, and we must hold the line at all costs. Through the haze of smoke, I catch a glimpse of the enemy advancing towards us. Their red coats gleam in the sunlight, their faces set in determined expressions. But I know that beneath that stoic facade, they, too, are filled with fear and uncertainty. A burst of gunfire erupts to my left, and I duck instinctively. Beside me, a fellow rifleman falls to the ground, blood pouring from a wound in his chest. I force myself to swallow the bile rising in my throat, to push aside the thoughts of my own mortality. We are in this together, fighting for a greater cause. I raise my rifle, sighting down the barrel at the enemy soldiers. They move in unison, but I can see the fear in their eyes. I take a deep breath, steadying my shaking hands as I squeeze the trigger. The crack of my rifle echoes through the battlefield, and I watch as my target falls to the ground. I feel a surge of exhilaration mixed with relief, knowing that I have done my part. But I also know that this battle is far from over. There will be more casualties, more pain and suffering on both sides. And yet, as I stand here in the midst of chaos and death, I know that there is no turning back. For we are the 95th Rifles, and we fight for king and country, no matter the cost.
Wow, that was truly captivating. Could you share a little more about the research process and the writing process behind this book?
Well, I spent much time researching the Peninsular War and the 94th Rifles in particular. I read everything I could get my hands on, including letters, diaries, and memoirs of soldiers who served in the war. I also visited several battlefields and talked to experts in the field. The writing process was a daunting one, but I tried to immerse myself in my research and put myself in the shoes of the soldiers. I wanted to convey the grit, determination, and bravery of the men who fought in the Peninsular War.
That sounds interesting. Can you tell us a little about your writing process and the challenges you faced while creating the book?
Writing a book is always a challenge, but I would say the research was probably the most time-consuming part of the process. I had to pore over historical documents and accounts to get a sense of what life was like for the 95th Rifles, and that took a lot of time and effort. But ultimately, it was a rewarding experience, and I'm proud of the final product.
It's definitely an impressive achievement. And what do you hope readers take away from the book?
My hope is that readers will gain a newfound appreciation for the sacrifices and achievements of the 95th Rifles. They were genuinely exceptional soldiers and deserve to be remembered and celebrated for their impact on world history.
It sounds like a lot of hard work went into this book. Before we sign off, tell our listeners where they can purchase your book.
Of course, Abbie, a rifleman of the 94th Rifles in the Peninsular War, is available from most major bookstores. I hope your listeners will enjoy reading it as much as I enjoyed writing it.
Thank you so much, Ronnie, for joining us today and sharing your insights. We're sure your book will be a valuable resource for history enthusiasts all around the world.
Thank you, Abbie. It's been great chatting with you.
To all our listeners, thank you for tuning in, and go ahead and purchase a Rifleman of the 94th Rifles in the Peninsular War today. It's an eye-opening look into one of the most significant wars in history. And don't forget to tune in next week for another episode of the Books Central podcast.